this is, the room is so packed. This is fantastic. I think this is maybe the best thing about elections is all you guys come out. So thank you. And seriously, thank you for being here. I was honored to be asked by Atima to introduce her. I have known her for 11 years, which is a really long time. She was a student. I was spending a lot of time in Richmond. There's one thing I want to make really clear. Richmond is a really tough place to be. I've gone down there numerous times in the past couple of years. It's hard to be an advocate. You need somebody who is really tough. I believe that Atima can handle that and will take whatever comes along and will stand up and stick by her principles, which is very important. She has more than a decade of activism on a wide variety of issues we care about as Democrats. She has just received the endorsement of NARAL Pro-Choice Virginia and of Planned Parenthood, so you can see that they value very much her commitment to women's issues. I want to make it perfectly clear, she's the best candidate, not just the best woman candidate. And finally, I want to say she's tireless and passionate for social justice and equality. My friend Atima Omara.
To my husband, who by marriage to me has been baptized in bonfire of Democratic politics. Thank you to Delegate Bob Brink, who I've had the honor of working with before, for his service to this district. And thank you to all of you tonight for coming out for a holiday weekend for this. It was in the middle of the night, fall of 1972, and all anyone could think of if they were going to live long enough to see another sunrise. The last few weeks had been bloody. Many had died and disappeared. Look the wrong way, make the wrong turn, and death was imminent. Ugandan dictator Idi Amin had decided he was going to purge the potential opposition. My father made a decision that night, one that he had not taken. I would not be standing in front of you today. He sold his possessions, a beloved motorbike, to his brother, my uncle, and he put his trust in some American Peace Corps volunteers he had come to befriend. They smuggled him to the American Embassy under the cover of darkness, and he was greeted by a man who extended his arm to my frightened father and said that if he trusted him, America would provide him safe passage out of this country. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. These words were said by President John F. Kennedy in his 1963 inaugural address, a man honored with a tomb right in this district and not far from where we gather here tonight. The words have become cliché to generations of Americans, but not to me. As an immigrant whose father survived certain death, escaping into the outstretched arms of American freedom, it would forever define my commitment to the Democratic Party, my country, and collective freedom, and why I have chosen to live a life of action and service. Many of you know me from my local engagement in the Democratic Party, Doorways for Women and Families, Planned Parenthood, and as a commissioner for the Arlington County Commission on the Status of Women. In my years of supporting the Democratic Party and community causes here in Northern Virginia, I have come to understand the leadership and responsibility required to preserve our quality of life and the reasons my husband and I, and families like yours, have decided to call this very special place our home. As a proud graduate of Virginia Public Schools, the University of Virginia, and George Mason University, I understand the importance of supporting our public institutions. Virginia's primary, secondary, community colleges, and public universities are vital to ensuring we have a workforce ready to compete in a 21st century global economy. Additionally, it is very important to be able to have a first-rate education and be able to afford it. And that rate has gone up for many in-state students over the years. And as delegate, I will continue to fight to give our public institution the resources they need. Every day, Virginia loses $5 million in federal dollars to states like Utah and Kentucky because we will not expand Medicaid to 400,000 of Virginia's most vulnerable. I know this personally, having a younger brother with a disability whose quality of life was affected by the Medicaid hours that were cut by Governor McDonald. Not only is expanding Medicaid the moral thing to do, it is the best course for our economy. Failing to expand Medicaid is preventing the creation of 30,000 Virginia jobs. In the House of Delegates, I will work to find consensus to expand Medicaid for Virginia. And if you haven't figured it out yet about me, health decisions are best made by women in close consultation with a healthcare professional. Government has no place in those decisions except to ensure safe access to all available healthcare treatment. As her delegate, I will never vote to restrict a woman's right to choose and access to healthcare. As a Roslyn resident, I use transit almost every day. It's a crucial component of what makes Northern Virginia an economic powerhouse and a really great place to live. I support continuing to make strategic investments in transportation that can pay dividends for decades to come. I think decisions about how to enhance transportation in Northern Virginia should be made at the local level and not in Richmond. As your delegate, I will work with my colleagues to make sure that Richmond isn't passing laws that harm Northern Virginia's ability to make our own decisions about transportation. And finally, firearm safety and rights. Preventing violence and unnecessary deaths should always be our top priority. While firearm ownership is a responsibility, we should be able to prevent the tragedies that have happened in the last year. Fellow Democrats, friends, activists, who I have worked shoulder to shoulder with to help bring progress and sustain the quality of life our community, make no mistake, Richmond is not representing our interests. And in order to get what we need from Richmond, we must marshal our talents and demand representation of skill and competence, commitment to this community, and the energy to take on this job to see it through. I promise you, and I will be your community's strongest delegate if elected. And tonight, while we have discussed a great many things, where we come from, where we have been, and where we will go together, the one thing that I respectfully ask you for is your vote. And with it, together, we'll go to Richmond and advocate for the desires, dreams, and future of our community. Thank you so much.